The stadium froze. One shot. One perfect, unstoppable winner fired straight down the line. And just like that, the most dangerous player in the entire tournament crumbled. Not from injury, not from exhaustion, but from pure, relentless pressure applied by a 19-year-old from the Philippines who had absolutely no business winning this match. At least, that's what everyone thought. The moment Alex defeated Jovic, the news exploded across every screen, every phone, every sports channel on the planet. Inside Paris, fans were already on their feet screaming. Commentators stumbled over their own words, struggling to describe what they had just witnessed. And millions of tennis fans watching from home sat completely frozen, replaying the final point over and over, trying to convince themselves it was actually real. Because nobody predicted this. Nobody circled Eala's name as a serious threat before this tournament began. She was the young hopeful, the exciting prospect, the underdog story people enjoyed following without truly believing in. Jovic was the story. Jovic was the favorite, powerful, experienced, battle-tested, and fully expected to control this match from the opening point all the way to the final handshake. But sport has a beautiful, cruel habit of destroying expectations. From the moment both players walked onto that court, the atmosphere inside the French Open felt electric. The stands were packed. Cameras flashed from every direction. Fans buzzed with nervous anticipation, most of them already certain they knew exactly how this afternoon would unfold. Jovic moved through her warm-up with sharp, deliberate focus. Every swing carried authority. Every movement radiated the quiet confidence of someone who had already decided the outcome before the first ball was ever struck. And then there was Alex. She walked onto that court carrying something far more dangerous than confidence. She carried belief. Deep, unshakable, almost unsettling belief. Her eyes were calm. Her body was relaxed. There was no tension in her shoulders, no hesitation in her step, no trace of fear anywhere on her face. Just a young woman who had prepared for this moment and was ready to take it completely by force. Most people watching assumed the pressure would eventually find her. This was the French Open, one of the 4 most important tournaments in the entire sport. The lights were blinding. The crowd was enormous. The expectations were crushing. For a player of Alex's age and experience, simply competing without collapsing would have been considered a success. But nobody told Alex that. From the very first rally, she was matching Jovic shot for shot. Not surviving. Not grinding. Actually competing, reading the ball early, moving fluidly, striking with genuine purpose and controlled aggression. Every return came back sharper than expected. Every rally lasted longer than it should have. And with every passing game, a quiet realization began spreading through the stands like a slow, unstoppable wave. Something was different today. The crowd began responding to Alex's brilliance in stages. First came polite applause after clean winners. Then louder cheers after outstanding rallies. Then genuine gasps as the quality of her play kept rising instead of fading. People shifted in their seats. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Phones came out because the feeling building inside that stadium was unmistakable to anyone who has ever watched great sport unfold in real time. History was approaching. And then the cracks appeared. Jovic missed a forehand that had no reason to miss. A backhand clipped the tape and fell short. An easy cross-court shot sailed wide by inches. Small mistakes individually, but in the context of this match, against this opponent, at this particular moment, they felt enormous. Her head dropped slightly after each error. Her jaw tightened. Her racket tapped against the strings in frustration. The crowd noticed immediately because crowds always notice before anyone admits it out loud. Something was wrong on that side of the net. Meanwhile, Alex was getting stronger with every single game. Her movement sharpened. Her shot selection became bolder. Her energy kept rising at exactly the moment Jovic's energy was quietly beginning to fall. The dynamic of the entire match was shifting right in front of everyone's eyes. Fans who had arrived fully expecting to cheer for the tournament favorite were now standing to celebrate every point the young Filipino star produced. People recorded from every angle. Others grabbed strangers by the arm and pointed at the court because deep down, Everyone inside that stadium could feel it. Paris was starting to believe. The pressure during the middle stages of that match was absolutely suffocating. Every single point carried enormous weight. Every rally felt like it could break the entire contest wide open. Most young players fall apart under that kind of sustained pressure. The crowd noise alone can destroy a player's focus. The cameras, the expectations, the awareness of a global audience watching every movement, all of it can reduce even talented athletes to nervous shadows of themselves on stages this enormous. But Eala was not most young players. She played with extraordinary composure. After losing difficult points, she reset immediately. After tight games went against her, her body language never wavered. She chased down balls that most players would have abandoned. She constructed points with patience and finished them with explosive precision. Her footwork was relentless. Her forehand was a genuine weapon. And every single time Jovic tried to wrestle control of the match back into her hands, Alex responded, immediately and without hesitation. When Jovic attacked aggressively, Alex countered fearlessly. When the rallies became brutal physical exchanges, Alex refused to slow down or back away. The shot quality from both players was remarkable. Ball after ball echoed around the stadium at incredible speed. The tension inside the arena kept building and building with no release. Even the commentators began sounding genuinely stunned because not one expert, not one analyst had predicted Alex would be competing at this level against an opponent of this caliber. But the most dramatic development of all was happening on the other side of the net. Jovic was losing herself emotionally. The frustration was building visibly after every missed opportunity. Errors that should never have happened began appearing with frightening regularity. Her reactions after losing points grew sharper, more agitated, more revealing. The smooth, controlled player who had stepped onto the court at the start of the match was slowly being replaced by someone struggling to hold it all together. And Alex, calm, focused, relentless, kept coming. The player who stepped onto that court at the beginning of the match was slowly disappearing, and Alex saw every single moment of it happening. That recognition changed everything. Instead of protecting her position or playing conservatively, Alex attacked harder. She pushed deeper. She made Jovic run further and respond faster. Every powerful return added more weight to the pressure already crushing the favorite. Every clean winner sent another visible shockwave through Jovic's confidence. And suddenly, an outcome that had felt impossible just 1 hour earlier was beginning to feel almost inevitable. The crowd inside Paris had completely switched allegiances. Fans were on their feet for every rally. They screamed after every Alex winner as though she were one of their own. The electricity bounced off the walls of the stadium. People sensed they were standing inside a moment that would be replayed and discussed for years. Jovic knew it. The commentators knew it. And somewhere beneath the chaos and the noise, Eala knew it too, because the underdog had fully taken over the match. Then came the rally that shattered everything. The tension inside the stadium had reached a level that felt almost unbearable. Nobody was sitting. Nobody was relaxed. Fans leaned forward with their hands pressed together. Commentators lowered their voices, as if speaking too loudly might disturb the moment. Even the players looked emotionally spent from the extraordinary intensity of the battle being fought between them. And then the rally began. Both players threw themselves into it completely. The ball traveled from one end of the court to the other at breathtaking speed. Neither was willing to surrender the point. Jovic attacked first, driving a powerful forehand into the corner. Alex tracked it down and fired back. Then another shot from Jovic. Another answer from Alex. The exchange kept going, shot after shot after shot, each one more desperate and more dramatic than the last. The entire stadium went completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed, because everyone watching understood that this single rally was carrying the weight of the entire match inside it. And then Alex stepped around her backhand, loaded up, and drove a winner straight down the line with such speed and precision that Jovic never even moved for it. For 1 full second, the stadium held completely still. Then Paris exploded. The noise was overwhelming and instant. Fans leapt from their seats screaming. The commentators shouted over each other, trying to describe what they were seeing. Strangers embraced in the stands. And in the middle of all that beautiful chaos, Alex pumped her fist and screamed, because she understood exactly what that moment meant. Jovic was done. Her body language transformed completely after that point. The confidence, the authority, the calm control she had carried throughout the early portion of the match, all of it was gone. Her movements became hesitant. Her shot selection became desperate. Mistakes arrived in clusters, each one feeding the next, each one turning up the volume of the crowd even louder. Simple shots clipped the net. Easy opportunities vanished into the sidelines. The collapse had become impossible to ignore or deny. And Alex was absolutely unstoppable. She was playing the finest tennis of her young career at the exact moment it mattered most. Every shot carried purpose. Every point was celebrated with energy that fed back into the crowd and then poured straight back into her. She was locked into a state of pure performance that elite athletes spend entire careers trying to find, and she had found it here, on the biggest stage, against the toughest opponent, with the whole world watching. Social media was already erupting in real time. Clips of the match spread across every platform within seconds. Fans in the Philippines posted reactions of pure disbelief and overwhelming national pride. Sports networks scrambled to cover what was unfolding live. Analysts who had spent the entire week discussing Jovic's path through the draw were suddenly talking about nothing except the young Filipino star who had just turned the entire tournament upside down. Some called it the arrival of a new superstar. Others called it the most shocking collapse the French Open had witnessed in years. But one truth had become absolutely undeniable. Eala was no longer a promising name to remember in the future. She was a global story happening right now in real time, in front of the entire world. The final stages of the match felt historic with every point. The French Open crowd was completely transformed. What had begun as a routine professional tennis match had become one of the most emotionally charged afternoons the tournament had experienced in recent memory. Fans stood for entire games. Others covered their mouths in pure disbelief. Alex's name was being chanted from sections of the crowd that, hours earlier, had arrived to cheer for her opponent. And through all of it, Alex never blinked. That was the most extraordinary part of the entire performance. Most 19-year-olds thrust into a moment this enormous crack under the weight of it. The occasion becomes too big. The nerves take over. The mind starts protecting itself instead of competing freely. But Alex played every single point in those final games with the calm assurance of someone who had belonged on this stage their entire life. Her movement stayed sharp. Her aggression never softened. Every return pushed Jovic deeper into exhaustion. Every winner extended the lead and tightened the invisible grip around the favorite's throat. There was nothing left for Jovic to try. Every strategy had been answered. Every comeback attempt had been shut down. She was running on empty, while the player across the net seemed to be drawing energy from thin air. And then the final point arrived. One last exchange. One last desperate attempt from Jovic to extend the match. One final shot from Eala that landed cleanly and perfectly inside the baseline. The match was over. The stadium came apart at the seams. Fans screamed so loudly the noise became physical. People jumped, embraced, shouted at their phones, pointed at the court in disbelief. The commentators were barely coherent, talking over each other, laughing at the absurdity and beauty of what they had just witnessed. And Eala stood in the middle of all that magnificent chaos, with tears forming in her eyes, because even she could barely process the scale of what she had just accomplished. The biggest upset in recent French Open history was complete. A 19-year-old from the Philippines had walked into Paris as a heavy underdog and walked out as one of the most talked-about names in global sport. In that moment, under the lights of Roland Garros, surrounded by the roar of thousands of people who would remember that afternoon forever, the entire tennis world was forced to confront one overwhelming reality. Eala had arrived. The question the sport is now asking is simple but enormous. Is this the beginning of something truly legendary? Because performances like this one don't just win matches. They announce careers. They shift the entire narrative around a player. They transform an exciting prospect into a genuine force, one that opponents will now prepare for differently, fear more seriously, and respect on an entirely new level. Alex is no longer the young hopeful waiting for her moment. She had her moment. She seized it completely. And now every fan, every analyst, every opponent waiting in future knows exactly who she is. True champions reveal themselves under pressure, not in easy wins against weaker opponents, not in controlled performances on familiar courts, but in moments when the crowd is enormous, the pressure is suffocating, and every logical prediction says they should fail. Those are the moments that separate great players from everyone else. Alex faced every single one of those conditions in Paris. And she didn't just survive them. She thrived inside them. For Jovic, this defeat will sting for a very long time. Collapses of this nature leave marks that are difficult to erase. The memories of what went wrong, where the control slipped away, how the match changed, those moments replay endlessly. Professional tennis has no mercy for favorites who fall apart against younger opponents on the biggest stages. The sport remembers everything. But for Iala, this is only the beginning. She walked into the French Open carrying the hopes of an entire nation and the quiet, unshakable belief that she belonged among the very best in the world. And then she proved it, not with words, not with potential, not with promise, but with performance, with courage, with a kind of championship mentality that cannot be faked or manufactured under pressure. The tennis world is watching now. Every tournament from this moment forward carries new weight and new expectation for the young Filipino star. Fans around the globe are asking the same question with growing excitement. How far can she actually go? Nobody knows the full answer yet. But after what happened in Paris, one thing is completely certain. Iala's rise is no longer something happening quietly in the background of women's tennis. It is loud, undeniable, and impossible to stop. The world just found out her name, and it is never going to forget it.